In this video I'm going to show you how you do some stenciling on the side of a cake. I'm going to do it in royal icing, and you can do it in buttercream. And I'll just change the angle so you can see a bit closer what I'm doing on the bottom tier, as I've done the top two already. So I've got my stencil. I'm using a damask pattern one for this one. It's a bit bigger than the cake, but that's fine. And I'm going to start with it level on my cake. Now, I iced this cake earlier and I've iced the board already, so the board is set hard, or the icing on the board is set hard, so I don't have to worry about scuffing it up when I'm going to put the stencil on it. Now, I do have videos on how to ice the cake and how to ice the board. You want to try and get your sides as smooth as you can so that the stencil will sit flat against them. Now, because I've put patterns on two already, I want to try and line them up so that it matches. And what I'm going to do to hold it in place is use some pins. Now, if you've got somebody with you, you might find that actually somebody will hold it in place for you. But as I'm on my own, I'm going to have to use some pins to hold it in place. So I'm just going to get that where I want it, and I'm going to spin it round. So you'll see, obviously my stencil's not big enough to go all the way around the side. And I'm just going to push some pins into the very edge of my stencil to try and hold it in place. Now, remember how many pins you've put in so you can make sure you've taken the right amount of pins back out once you've finished with your stencil. So I'm going to put 4 in here to hold it in place. Okay, and I'm going to try and hold it tight around the cake. Now obviously don't press too hard that you mark the cake. And again, when you get to this side, we're going to put the pins in again. So we've got that pinned in place now. Now, if your fondant's still a little bit soft, you should be able to push your stencil just onto the fondant just a little bit to keep it in place with a smoother. The thing you have to be careful with is that if it's not directly touching your cake, sometimes your royal icing or your buttercream will go down the sides and you will end up with the full pattern. Now sometimes it does happen, you can pull it off sometimes with a paintbrush. So I'm just using some royal icing, and I'm just going to make sure my stencil's held down anywhere that it looks like it's going to lift, and I'm just going to smooth that royal icing on. I don't want to push it in too much that it goes underneath the stencil. We just want it to go into the gaps. Now I'm putting more on than I need at the moment, and we'll scrape the additional stuff off afterwards. Just making sure that I go to the top of where my cake is. And we're going to do that all the way around. Okay, so we've done that all the way around. Now, with your royal icing, it wants to be quite a thick consistency. I just bought the royal icing in a pack, dry, and I just followed the instructions on the pack. So for quantities of how much water to add to a ready-made pack of royal icing, just have a look on the box for it. But you don't want it to be too thin, otherwise it'll run between the stencil. So what I'm going to do is take my scraper, I'm going to pull it along. I'm just going to clear the scraper as I go along. You just hear me clunking about, that's what I'm doing. I'm just wiping it into a bowl. So we're keeping it going. You don't want to press too hard that you pull it all off, but you don't want to leave it really thick either. Okay. So we've done that all the way across, and we're going to remove the pins now. Just make sure you've removed all of them. So I put 4 in this side. 2, 3, 4. And you'll probably find the stencil will just come away of its own accord. So we're going to pull it away, and we'll move it around to this side. I'm just pulling that out. And again, remove the pins. I usually end up covered in royal icing. Okay. So you'll see it's come out quite well on the bottom. Obviously there's a bit extra than what we need on the top. So just taking a paintbrush, I'm going to wipe the extra off the top, and you can go in between the pattern if you've lost some of the pattern. So we're going to take that off the top, just patting it down a little bit with a slightly damp paintbrush. And you can use a finer brush if you want, or you might even want to use a palette knife for pulling the extra bits off the top edge. The sharper your corner on your cake, the easier it is to do the stenciling. The more rounded your corner, the more difficult it is. And that's it, that's our stenciling done. If you want to do all the way around the cake, obviously I've just done the front to show you for an example, then obviously you'll be able to match it up as you go around. Just make sure that this one has dried before you add your next bit, otherwise you'll smudge this one. So I'll put up a picture of the finished cake. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.
If you liked this video and would like to see more, please click on the images of the other videos suggested. Also, please do subscribe to my channel using the button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You can also visit my cake website and my Facebook page to see more cakes and ideas.